Hi, everyone. Well, what the heck was that? That was interesting. Everyone, welcome back. It's Julie again here with you today to talk about another topic that I thought maybe you'd be interested in and that I would love to share with you. And I hope everybody had a great week. I know I did, and we're at the weekend again, which is always a great thing. And I don't know if you can tell behind me, but I got the windows open today. We finally got a good weekend here in Western Pennsylvania. Very exciting. And got the windows open, and all the kitties are loving it. They're in the windows chirping at the birds and just having a grand time. And I think I might go out and sit on my deck after I'm done with my live stream today. So I hope you're having a great weekend as well. And the topic that I picked today is one that I have been experiencing over the past few weeks. Oh, the neighbors are saying hi. Not walking their dog. But the topic I wanted to talk about this today is something that I've personally been going through the last month. And it's been difficult, but I'm on my way to getting it better. And I thought it'd be a great time to share it with you, because in my research that I've done, for the live stream, it was the self-help that I did to get myself on the right path to get in a much better place. And I don't know if anybody out there is experiencing it, but we're going to talk about it today. So let's get started. For the last month, maybe a little longer, I identified that I was suffering from extreme severe burnout. Now, I was having a lot of signs, but I didn't recognize what it was. I was at a place where I just couldn't figure out why I was feeling the way that I was. So, I think that in today's world and in today's workplace especially, I think that we're all stressed, we're all overworked. And burnout is a pretty popular thing right now. I know that a lot of us have that work-related stress due to many different stressors in our lives and that we experience every day. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, that's where mine came from, very strongly, in fact. And in identifying it, we need to start with, what is burnout? What is it? It's a place whenever it's not just emotional, it's physically, it's emotionally, it's behaviorally. It's when you're just exhausted. In a nutshell, generically, it's just you're exhausted and just about on every level. And even if you take a break, and this was very much me, even if I took a break, it didn't matter. I just could not get out of where I was. And it was just getting worse and worse with time. And, in the work environment, maybe you're working long hours. Now, I worked 12 to 14-hour days during the 3 years we all lived through. And I worked during that time. When I worked those hours, I have to tell you, I didn't feel as burnout as what I have this past month or so. Which is kind of, I think, why I didn't recognize what it was, because I'm pretty tough. And, I thought, if I can get through those 3 years, I can get through anything. And I still believe that. But this last month or so has been very challenging, to say the least. So, a part of it was, job expectations. Now, I think I'm really good at prioritizing. But one thing that drives me crazy, and I mean totally crazy, is there are some days And, and I love to help people, and I will always help people, and I love to help people. But there are times where I find, I think that I would just wish some days everybody would forget my name, because some days I just feel like every moment it's Julie, 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 do you know this? Julie, where's this at? Julie, can you help me with this? Julie, Julie. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't take it anymore. So sometimes those expectations just push my buttons and take me to that place. And that's kind of what happened. And especially when you have, in the workplace, if you have some dynamics going on there, and drama, and certain individuals that are just constantly after you all the time. That was me. That's me. That was my situation, and it was just incredibly unbelievable. And I got to a point where, after all these years, I've really worked on myself, and I know who I am. I know who I am. I know what I feel. I know what my values are. But there was a time here recently where I just didn't feel right. I had extremes in my job. Like I said, if I wasn't in a meeting, I was helping somebody, or I was amending a purchase order, I was placing a new PO, or I was doing something with documentation, because we're highly documented at where I currently work. So that was getting to me. And the same day, it was just like, it didn't stop. It was just nonstop over and over again. And that was very wearing. And I think one thing, like I said, I finally just as a fluke one day, I just looked up on the internet, and I'm like, I looked at the signs I was having pretty much, and burnout came up, and it came up as severe burnout. And I took a look at it, and there's physical, emotional, and behavioral signs of emotional burnout, and I had the majority of them. And boy, did I have an awakening. So we're going to talk about them and go through some of them. And there's Dan. Hi, Dan. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Miss you tons. And you're very welcome. I will always share the truth. I am not ashamed of anything that I feel. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. We all have our mistakes. We all have our moments. I don't see them as a weakness. I see them as something that happened to me, and I have taken a move to make things better or change things up. I show my vulnerability, but that's just who I am. I am an open book. It really doesn't matter to me who knows what, because everybody's going to feel the way that they do about anything that I say, or, whatever they hear. And I'm okay with that. I don't hide things. That's not who I am. And that's why I want to talk about this today. So, we're going to talk about, let's start with some physical sides of what can be seen as burnout. And I can tell you this first one was probably the biggest one that I experienced it. And it was really debilitating, very much so. And it was severe fatigue and exhaustion. I couldn't keep my eyes open. All I could do. I had to physically drag myself out of bed in the morning to get ready for work. I was, doing my hair in the mirror with my eyes shut because I just couldn't keep them open. I wasn't really falling asleep during the day. I found that at the beginning of the day and the end of the day were the worst. I couldn't keep my eyes open at night. I was falling asleep on the couch all the time, waking up in the middle of the night, and it was just unbelievably unbearable. And, along with that, one of the other things, now I personally didn't experience this, but another thing that I found, and they talk about, is having gastrointestinal issues. And, any type of a digestive issue that you might have, stomach would be a big one. I can see that for sure. But the stomach issues, I really didn't have anything like that. But, keep that in mind, because if you're having something like that, or, you have a loved one that is, think about it. That might be something. I mean, definitely go see your physician, get it checked out. But I mean, it very well could likely be that. I can easily see that. And another thing I can easily see, but I also didn't have, is headaches. They talk about tension headaches, and I can see where that could be a very easy, physical sign of having stress, or anxiety or anything like that. And when you feel that way, your defenses are down. There's a big chance and a good chance that you could physically get sick. Illness, if you're getting ill a lot more recently, if you're feeling seeing some of these things, that could likely be one as well. If you're getting sick, I also didn't have that, which I'm grateful for. But think about that too. Another one I had though is insomnia. Now, when I say I had insomnia, there's two different types of insomnia that you could mention. You could talk about the insomnia where you can't get to sleep, which definitely was not my problem. Getting to sleep was easy, too easy. And then there's the other one where you go to sleep, but then you wake up in the middle of the night. That's what I was doing. And in a lot of cases, I couldn't get back to sleep, and I knew I was exhausted, and I couldn't get back to sleep, and it was just annoying beyond belief. So there's that too. So those are some physical signs we can look for, and definitely take them into consideration. Take a look at it. And then the next category we can look at is emotional, and this is the big one for me, is emotional. I think I had just about every one of these, with the exception of maybe one or two of them, which I'm laughing about, but it wasn't fun to go through them at all. And the first one is anger. I am already being treated for PTSD, which I have for many years since from my last job. And I've been working through it the last 6 years, and I'm doing really well. And I do really good, and I'm on medication for it. But the one thing that I have a hard time dealing with, and I still have problems with anger, or I notice it a lot more, is when I have outside sources that are affecting me, like my environment. When my environment is constantly on me and pushing me, and just pushing my buttons all the time and just after me, and there's no break in it, that's when it surfaces. And I know that, I know that very well. And I was angry a lot this last month. I was really angry a lot, and I'm like, I didn't want to do this. I don't want to feel this way. That's not who I am. I'm not an angry person, and the reasons for my anger stem from other people in my past, that now I've recognized it, and I'm working through it, and I'm a strong person that way. I'm a fighter, and that's what you have to do sometimes, but sometimes it's hard, and that was one thing I really had a hard time with, and anxiety. Oh my gosh, my anxiety was through the roof. And I couldn't stop it. I just couldn't stop it. It was nonstop every day. And it was just unbearable and unbelievable. And I was very negative. I was very negative, and I'm still dealing with that part of it, even though I'm on a good path right now. And I've made some changes. There's still a little bit of that negativity there, that I've got to work through yet. And I will. But you get very cynical about everything. And that's pretty much where I was. And this next one's going to sound a little weird. It may sound weird, but it happened. Just stick with me. I didn't feel like myself, and I didn't know why. Like I knew who I was. I know who I am, but I wasn't me. And it was a very uncomfortable feeling. And until I recognized what was going on with me, I would get really angry because I just didn't feel like me. And I was trying to figure it out. It took me a little while, and I finally did, but it wasn't a good feeling. It was really frustrating. I was very depressed all the time. Pretty much I really turned myself off. I became like a robot. I was just a zombie going through the motions. And whether it was at work or home, I just finally shut myself off. I felt I had to. It was a necessity. I couldn't bear to not do it. um, and I had no energy, which I've already mentioned about the exhaustion. I had no energy to do anything. I didn't want to go outside, even to go on the deck to sit. It was just too much of a hassle to take the chairs out and to take the laptop out and, to haul everything outside. I just had no energy to do it, and I know one thing that I've talked about, I always say there's hope, and there always is hope. I truly believe that. I felt hopeless the last month. I thought all was lost. I didn't see an end in sight. And I know that that's not how I am, because you always have hope, you know. And, it took me a couple weeks, but I'm finally back to that now. And I know there's hope. But it took me to get to a point of just breaking down and finally handling it once I knew what it was. And, I didn't enjoy anything. Nothing brought me happiness, because I turned myself off. I just went through the motions. And I didn't feel like, and I still feel this to an extent. And I think we all feel like this, that there are certain parts of our life, especially work, where we feel like we don't have control over our own lives and what we do. I know I feel that way a lot, but I think that we all do. Because, when we're at work, we're answering to other people and higher ups. And, sometimes you just kind of feel like, yeah, I'm still dealing with a little bit of that. But I don't think it's really because of the severe burnout I have. I think it's just something that I deal with on a normal basis. But it was escalated by what I was feeling. And now the behavioral signs. This was the category, I think, that got my attention the most, because it really opened my eyes. And one is concentration issues. I couldn't focus at all. I had a rough time. It was hard. I was like in a funk. I can't really explain it. Yeah, Dan, I'm pretty raw. Yeah, I'm pretty raw. I'm do these live, and I know I'm putting myself out there, and I'm okay with that, and like I said, you're very welcome. I love you. We've been friends for many years. I love you, and I appreciate the support always. And I'm going to keep doing it. As long as I know I'm helping someone. People have reached out to me, and I know I'm helping them. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing. So thank you very much. So along with the concentration, which was a big one for me, because I'm like, yeah, I focus was a big problem for me. I can honestly say, though, just because my focus was going, I didn't really have less productivity. In my life, when I've been an EMT, I've been a PIR. I've always had other people who depended on me, for some pretty extreme reasons. Of course, being an EMT, it's obvious, you're helping people in some of the worst times of their life, physically. And you have to shut yourself off and be there for them. But also, at my work, I've actually had people tell me that if you don't get a part here, we're going to have to shut the production line down, and you're going to hurt people's families, and you are going to hurt patients around the world and people around the world. Yeah. That hurts a lot when you're someone like me, but I know that that's frustration, and I know that's people who are scared. So I work through it, and I just let it go, because I get it. I do get it, but I also accept responsibility for my part, and to continuing to help people, whatever level it is on. And I can honestly say I didn't decrease my productivity, but I think that's something that's been ingrained in me all my life. So I didn't, as much as I turned myself off and was a zombie and had a hard time focusing, I was not less productive, at all. I struggled through it because I knew I had to. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Um, and I can honestly say the next one I'm going to mention is one that made me realize something was really going on. And I actually told myself that I hated my job. And that's not me. I love my job. I have loved my job for a long time. And that scared me when I said that, because I knew something was definitely up, because I don't say stuff like that. I've never said that in my life. And that scared me. It was really unexpected that I said that out loud. So that was a big one for me. And I did feel isolated. I did talk to people, but I didn't feel like it was going to help anything, because I didn't feel like I had control. In this case, in my case, I felt very alone. And I felt that we all feel times in our life where we go through those stages, where we feel that way. And I did, I felt that way. But I think there's a difference between isolation and feeling alone. I didn't really, I wanted to be isolated, but I more wanted to be alone, if that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And I definitely wasn't motivated. That was kind of an obvious one. I had no motivation to do anything. I did things because I had to. And there wasn't a choice in the matter. So it didn't matter how I felt. I pushed through it, and I went on. But I didn't feel like what I was doing, I wasn't making a difference anymore. And that hurt me and bothered me a lot. In some of the interactions, I'll put it that way, that I had from others, I felt like I was incompetent. I felt like I didn't matter. I felt unappreciated. I felt underappreciated. I didn't feel good about anything and about myself. And in the long run, I knew that wasn't true. Based on what I do every day, I knew that none of that was the truth, but I just couldn't realize it for a couple of weeks there. Yeah. And you know what? This couldn't be more true. If you change your thinking, you can change your world. And that's what I've done. And I know you can do it too. If you're feeling or seeing any of this, that we're mentioning today, you can do it. Like I said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. With all of the struggles that I've had in my life, with depression and anxiety, and feeling worthless and being made to feel like I was worthless, by other people in my past. I've taken control of that, and I do backslide, when things happen like now. But that doesn't mean you give up. That doesn't mean you keep fighting forward. And there are steps, that we can take so that we don't find ourselves in a burnout situation. And we have to be very cognizant about it, and we need to manually, actively do it to ourselves to make sure that we make it. We need to make it happen. We need to be able to help ourselves. There's nothing wrong with others, you reaching out to others to help, but you have to help yourself. That's a big part of it. It truly is. And as this is going to affect you physically, emotionally, behaviorally, it affects a lot of different areas. We deserve it. We deserve it to ourselves to do this for us. We're worth it. We're worth it, and we deserve it. We need it. So, and this is the first thing I'm going to mention is, and I'm really bad at, I'm really bad, is, at my job, I am allotted 2 15-minute breaks a day. Do you think I take them? Nope, I don't take them. Um, I did, and then for a while things got really crazy and I just didn't have time. And I was so focused on getting my job done so I could get out of there as soon as I could and get home so I could relax. Well, that didn't work out well because by not taking a break during the day, I was just constant, whether I'm in a meeting or doing a purchase order or helping someone with a question, I was constantly doing something. And I wasn't giving my mind that chance to reboot a little bit and take a break, get away from it a little bit and refocus. So this past week, that's one thing I've done. I need to take my breaks. So do you. Take a break. You deserve it. And you earned it. Absolute right. We earn a break. We deserve a break. I mean, life's tough enough. We should never feel guilty, doing something to take care of ourselves or our well-being. Absolutely not. And another thing that I've done is I had to bring myself back to this. When you walk out the door at work at the end of the day, leave it there. Shut it off. I know it can be hard. And I used my 20-minute drive home from work as my release time. I just shut myself off the second I got in the truck. And I literally forced myself to start thinking about what am I going to do this evening? What am I going to do for my live stream? I need to maybe do some research and find another topic or, whatever it was. I started thinking about that. And I made myself do that. And actually, I'm getting back into that pattern again. You need to wind down. You need to take it down a couple notches from the stress and the rough days we all have. Wind it down. Take it down. And when you are home, when you're away from it, do something that's relaxing. Do something even physical. We've talked about how physical things can create endorphins, and endorphins help make you happy and help you relax. I personally, I've gotten out of it a little bit, but I love to walk. I love getting out, and I love seeing different, even if you change in your own neighborhood, change your scenery a little bit. I know that helps me. I just have to be careful because even though I take that I'm doing that change of scenery and I'm walking, I find sometimes my mind starts getting into a phase again of just thinking, and I got to stop it. And I have to manually stop it and concentrate. Look at some trees. I love looking at trees and birds and nature. Those are things that I don't see a lot during the week because I have an office job. I truly appreciate that. And, when I did hybrid, I worked on the deck in the summer times and I loved every second of it. And I truly miss it because getting into nature and making things simple again. Life's complicated. When I make things simple and keep it real and make it really simple, I found that helps me a lot, and we always talk about, leaning on your friends, leaning on your support, whether it's professionals, doctors, therapy, friends, family, whatever it is, get it out. I can honestly say that what helped get me started into helping myself, and once I realized I had burnout, I didn't know how to fix it. I just blurted it out in a meeting. I'm purchasing way too many parts. I'm doing the work literally of 6 to 8 people right now, which I love, and I'm not complaining. It's just an observation, just a statement. But everything was hitting at one time. And I needed to make someone aware that can't even get to my own job right now because of all this other stuff that, I'm responsible for as well. That just happened all at the same time. And I unexpectedly and very surprisingly and wonderfully actually got support from management. And I was astonished. And that took a weight off my shoulders. It was a start. And they listened. I was amazed. They listened. And I thought, you know what? there it is. Someone is actually listening. So I need to step forward and do some things myself too, because I think I'm going to be headed in the right direction. I had a weight lifted off my shoulders when that happened, and that's what you need to do. Communicate. Communicating is really important. And I realized that was my downfall. If I'm getting into these situations, I need to be telling people, what's going on and how I feel, but specifically to people that could help me make a change. In this case, it was management, and they really stepped up. And I was really grateful and really thankful and made sure they knew that, because I really did appreciate that. And it totally did a 360 for me, really. And the next one's the hard one. I had to focus on things that I could control. And the one thing we can't control is somebody else. Their actions, their opinions, their views. We can't control anybody else. That is the hard part for me, because it was other people who, there were some individuals in particular that were causing a part of the way I felt burned out. But I really had to take a step back and remember, they're not going to change. No matter how I act, no matter what I do, they're not going to change. They're going to continue to be the people that they are. So I went back many years ago in my mind, and I remembered something that my grandmother always said. And I don't know where it came from, but I remembered it. She always said, you can always get more bees with honey than you could with vinegar. And I bet a lot of you had grandmas that said the same thing, but she was right. It doesn't matter how I act. I can't control how they act. And I need to be me. I want to be me. And in order to do that, I decided to be the bigger person. And I swallowed my pride and changed my attitude towards them. It's gotten better, but it's gotten better because of me, and I know that's the way it has to be. If I want to, and I do want to stay in this situation. I love what I do, and I love where I do it, but it's going to be a task. I'm not going to lie, but it's the way that I need to be me and be the person that I am and be that bigger person. And that's what I've done this past week. And that's how I know I'm on the right track, and if we do find, once we do find ourselves, in these burnout situations, what steps can we take? And that's what I'm talking about here. And some of the steps that I've taken is, I have to reprioritize. And this is one thing I can say I'm really good at. And I've recently hooked up with last year with a lot of friends that I graduated with. And one of the things that they said to me, which really surprised me, is they said, Julie, you've always been the most organized person ever. And, I am organized. And I think I prioritize things really well. So prioritize wise wasn't my problem, but by prioritizing things and keeping those priorities there, it helped a little bit. But because I'm already pretty good at that, I can honestly say it wasn't like a game changer for me. But I can see where this would help. Make sure you have your priorities straight. And reprioritize if you need to. Get your regular exercise in. Get those endorphins flowing. Do things that have you relax and bring that happiness, some of that happiness back in your life. Now, in my case, once again, I was exhausted, so that was a challenge for me to do that. But because of these other changes, it's happening. It's starting to happen for me. Professional support, I always have that. I always have my therapist I talk to religiously on a regular basis, and I keep that up. I don't cancel. So that's helped as well to get things off my chest. I'm working on the self-care. I'm working on that. I'm trying to get a good night's sleep. still working on that one. And I am trying this past week. I made a point to at least take one of my breaks. Towards the end of the week, I did better. It got a little slower, so I was able to take both of my breaks, and I felt good about it. And I was pretty proud of myself. I'm recognizing that. And Dan, my grandma always said, "It's a great life. If you don't weaken." Yeah, our grandmas were a lot smarter than I think we ever gave them credit for, when we were younger. And yeah, life is really good. Sometimes it's just a little more difficult than other times. So we've just got to change it up a little bit and do that bam and get ourselves back on track. And that's where I'm at. I'm trying to get back on that track. And I got a good start. And this one, the last one's kind of hard. And we need to set boundaries. And in the workplace, that's a little hard to do. It's easier to prioritize, I think, than it is to set boundaries, because sometimes you don't have that opportunity. Sometimes you do. Like I'm more fortunate enough to have an office. So one thing I do is I shut my door. Now, I shut my door anyway if I have a Microsoft Teams meeting. Sometimes it works and people don't come in, and sometimes it does work. It helps, but sometimes I physically have to get up from my desk, go outside. If it's a nice day, get outside for 10, 15 minutes and just walk a little bit around the building and get a breath of fresh air. Or when it's been rainy or nasty, I've actually just taken walks around the building inside. I have the opportunity to do that. So I've done that as well. And, now that it's nice out, I now have that chance to do that for myself, get outside and take that break and enjoy some sun and fun and, just take it in, to take nature in a little bit. This whole thing, the whole burnout thing, it's kind of like with other issues as well. Self-awareness and acknowledgement are a big part of it. Whether it's an addiction, whether it's depression, whether it's burnout. No matter what it is, acknowledgement and admitting it sounds corny. I know it sounds corny, but it truly is the step one of getting on the right path and getting going in the right direction. And it's just as much with burnout too. Until I really, did a little research and found my signs and realized what the heck was going on, it was then that I'm like, okay, I have burnout, severe burnout. And when I had that breakdown and just blurted out, and I realized that I had support, that's what helped me on the right track. And, sometimes, I'm in a position where I'm lucky enough that, in doing all these things and, these things that I found that they recommend to help yourself and to even maybe prevent it, from not getting to that point. There are some situations, where, thank you. Dan says it's not corny. It's okay to not be okay. Thank you. I feel the same way. They always say admission is a big part of it, especially at the start. And I totally agree with that. And usually they say it about addiction, but there are all these other, situations and circumstances where it also comes into play. Until you admit something and you recognize something and you really get in that mind frame where, this isn't me. I don't want to be here. What can I do? There's a fighter in all of this. I'm totally convinced of that. Because I know I found it in me. There are some situations though where it's just not going to happen. And I've been there before where the situation, it's not going to change. And even if you change yourself, you can't change others. If it's a situation that's really horrible and is taking its toll on you in all these different areas we discussed, sometimes you got to make a change, and I can honestly say, I have reinvented myself a couple times in my life. And I know I can do it. I reinventing yourself. I think it's a life process in all of our lives as we go on in life and we have different experiences and meet different people. Um, we all, we all have had to reinvent ourselves at one time or another, or find ourselves again. And I think right now I'm doing a little bit of both. I'm getting back to me. I'm getting back to who I am and not letting others get to me and getting away. Sometimes you need to walk away. Sometimes it's the healthiest thing you can do. If it means going to another company, taking a break for a while from work at all, depending on what your circumstances, we all need that sometimes. And it's not a bad thing. And, in today's busy world, sometimes we're made to feel that way, that we're doing a bad thing, but it definitely isn't, and I need to remind myself that it's okay. It's okay for me to do this for me. I'm not a terrible person and neither are you. If you need to do that, if that's what you have to do it by all means. We need that in our lives. And here's addiction is stigmatized. Nobody lived for life but you. If you have an addiction, there's no need to be ashamed. Yeah, and addiction is a way of how people deal with things. It's their way of dealing with things. Now, it's not healthy. It's not a healthy way to deal with things. But like I said, in our lives, we've all made mistakes, and if you're not admitting you make mistakes, you're wrong. Yeah, that is not true. But burnout is a very big problem today. And, I've suffered it before, but I can honestly say this particular episode I've had has been one of the worst. And it was tough to deal with. But I can say now, you can do this. That's the name of my channel. We can do this. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm trying to remind everybody out there, and remind myself. Like I said, I'm learning right along with you on all these topics. This was my idea to do a live stream like this, but I'm really learning a lot too, and it's really helping me. And that's why I hope it's helping you out there, no matter who you are. And I appreciate, everybody, the struggles you go through, because I go back and look at the struggles I've gone through. We all go through them, and burnout is one of them. So we need to take care of ourselves, look at our situation and grow with whatever we need to do, go for it. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed my live stream today. I know I did. And I hope you have a great weekend and you have a great week next week. And as we always say on my channel, we got this. We can do it. I can, and I will. So until next week at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time, my friends, thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe. So until next time,